Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Repeat 7885 and it says, am I the arsehole for not letting my mother-in-law come over after she destroyed my Millennium Falcon Lego set? Ooh. No, not the arsehole, absolutely. But let's read the story first. I, 38 male, live with my wife, 37 female, and my 7-year-old son. I work as an engineer and my wife is a senior supervisor at a law firm. I've always loved Legos since I was a kid, and sure, it's kind of childish, but it makes me happy, so I've kept it as a consistent hobby throughout my adult life. In 2024, I spent months building the Millennium Falcon with my son. It's me and my son's pride and joy, and I often show guests who come over. My wife doesn't really get the hype, but doesn't mind either. In early March, my wife's parents came over for a week to spend time with us, as I usually do with guests. I asked them if they would like to see my Lego collection. They agreed and I showed both her father and mother my Millennium Falcon. Her father was amazed at the time it took to build my sizable collection, but her mother said it was a waste of time and that I should focus on being a real man and move up the corporate ladder. I laughed it off because she's pretty old and I figured she just held very old-fashioned beliefs. We left the room and nobody really mentioned it for a few hours, but at dinner her mother said out of nowhere that I should give up on all this Lego nonsense and be a real man. We ignored this and moved on, but you could see in her expression that she was not happy. Nobody said anything about it for the rest of their stay, and all seemed well the morning they left. They left at 3 AM to catch a flight and we waved them off. I went back to bed, but the next morning awoke to find my Millennium Falcon smashed to pieces with a note from my wife's mother calmly saying that this was for my own good, so I can be a real man and focus on what matters. It turns out she had quietly destroyed it in the night and left in the morning. Me and especially my son were very upset. I called her in the morning, but she refused to apologize. I said that until she apologized, they would not be coming back again. My wife is not happy with my decision on this matter, and honestly, I'm starting to wonder if I overreacted. Did I go overboard, or am I in the right? That kind of behavior is absolutely wild. I don't know what it is about Legos that tips in-laws over the edge. And let's face it, it's not even really about the Lego, it's just genuinely shitty, disturbing behavior. If you think about it, that she snuck around your house. This is a grown woman snuck around your house to deliberately destroy something that you and your son built together, bonded over, and destroyed it. That's messed up behavior. I mean, the real man comments were bad enough, and then has the bloody cheek to leave you that note like she did you some kind of favor. I mean, even with an apology, which it sounds like isn't going to happen, I don't think I'd want her around me anyway. And the fact that your wife isn't backing you up is shitty in itself as well. And you also have a wife problem in this situation. The fact that she isn't backing you up over this after she saw her mother came in, destroyed something of yours that you and your son built, and isn't backing you up is concerning in itself. But OP came in with her own comment after the post and said, hello, I posted this last night and checking Reddit today was quite the surprise. I'm incredibly grateful for the output of support and will be taking people's advice into consideration. I see people suggesting that I have a talk with my wife and will definitely try that. I'll also hold my ground with my mother-in-law as suggested. I've seen some commenters suggesting I take legal action, but I do not want to escalate things. I'm so happy I got all this support and will be providing an update post soon. Commenter says, she ruined something you and your son did together. Regardless of her feelings about you, she actively did something that hurt her grandchild. That right there is grounds to not allow her in your home or have a relationship with your child. Your wife needs to think of how disrespected you were as an entire family unit. If she doesn't back you up with this, then you have some serious issues. Good luck, dude. Not the arsehole. Maybe says, my main conflict is that it seems immoral to make it harder for my wife and her parents to meet, even if her mother and I have conflicts. You're right that my wife should be standing by me and I will have a talk with her. At the end of the day, I can't make her do anything, but I need to know where she stands so we can resolve this. Thank you for your support. Commenter says, I'm disappointed in your wife. What her mum did was beyond rude and she should have been the first to go off on her. Your mother-in-law overstepped big time. Your wife understepped big time. Opie says, you're absolutely right. I'm going to try to resolve things with my wife and see where she stands. Thanks for the perspective. Commenter says, not the arsehole. It just shows your mother-in-law does not care about you or your son at all. That's a horrible person to be around, and even a worse grandmother. She needs to be aware of how her actions made a negative impact on her grandchild and you. This is not something for you, but something both you and your son enjoy. It doesn't matter if she thinks it's childish or a waste of time. It's how you've been bonding with your son. Opie says, thanks, I appreciate the words of encouragement. You're right that it's also important to my son. My mother-in-law had no right to break that. Commenter says, the fact that she destroyed something that was a father-son project and crapped all over what should have been a cherished lifelong memory for her grandson without batting an eye tells me that there is something deeply defective about her character. Did she even address the grandson's hurt and disappointment? I keep myself and my kid away from her, and it's time to have a sit down with your wife about 1. Why she didn't shut her mum down the minute mum said Opie wasn't a real man, etc. And 2. Why she didn't have Opie and her own son's back in the aftermath. Opie, you're not an a-hole. Your mother-in-law and potentially your wife are. I'm angry on your behalf. What a cruel, petty, vindictive thing to do. Legos are popular among all ages. How is it any different than building models or miniatures like Lester on the Wire? It would take a crap ton of allowance to buy some of those Lego sets. Opie says, she seemed generally apathetic to my son's sadness, even though I brought it up over the phone. She simply explained that he would get over it and it didn't matter since I needed the set to be destroyed to move on. So Opie did update the post and says, first off, I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support. It's been wonderful seeing everyone's advice and it has helped me realize a few things. I had a good long talk with my wife in an attempt to resolve this situation. We've again called the mother-in-law, which I hope will diffuse the situation and bring things back down to earth. Instead, tensions have seemed only to have escalated. For anyone who didn't see the original post, my wife's parents came to visit for a week, in which things went relatively smoothly aside from some disparaging comments about my Lego collection from the mother-in-law. But after they left in the night, we discovered the Millennium Falcon destroyed, with a note from my mother-in-law saying she did this so that I can move on and be a real man. Firstly, after lunch, me and my wife discussed the situation, adult to adult. I expressed my feelings for her not being behind me in this. She admitted to having harbored feelings against my Lego collection. She also admitted to secretly agreeing partially with my mother. It says my mother, it might mean her mother or mother-in-law. She doesn't think that my mother-in-law should have gone as far as she did. According to my wife, I need to move on. I feel hurt by this, since it's been my lifelong hobby. Being an engineer, I take great joy in building various creations with Legos. After that, me and my wife were certainly not in agreement, but we're at least on the same page. We also both wanted to resolve things with my mother-in-law, and so that day we called her mother and things did not go well to say the least. I simply told her that I was sorry I had not let her come back, and I hope things can be resolved quickly. Still feeling upset about the Lego Millennium Falcon, I said that all I asked of her was an apology. She refused, saying that if she bends for me at all, I would never get over my Lego obsession. My wife is not happy with any of this, and frankly the marriage is starting to show tensions, which worries me greatly. She seems to be more distant after all of this. My son has developed a strong disliking of the mother-in-law, and I really can't blame him. She has been getting a little crazy and seems to only talk about Trump these days. Should we start considering a senior home for her? So that's the update. Things are getting even worse and I'm not sure if I can salvage the situation. I'll update everyone when new developments occur. Top commenters on this one say, seems like some deeper issues here than Legos. My guess would be that your mother-in-law's actions and words are based on things that your wife has said to her. Mother-in-law went off the rails, but your wife likely lit the fuse. It did have me thinking that way as well. The fact that she admitted to having harbored feelings against your Lego collection and she admitted to secretly agreeing with mother, it kind of says to me that they've been talking in the background about this and mother-in-law thought she'd come in and start taking action. And if your wife's not backing you up on this, you've got much bigger problems, I think. But commenter says your wife having harbored feelings towards something that brings you joy is a red flag, especially since you built it with your son. Your wife and mother-in-law are in the wrong, and I don't think differently for a second. You did nothing wrong. If your wife can't see the issue with this situation, then you should reevaluate this relationship. Commenter says you don't have a mother-in-law problem, you have a wife problem. I'm just going to leave that there. Until you frame all of this as being a problem of having a spouse who is not in your corner, you won't be able to move forward. Commenter says it's the disrespect your wife has for you, and the fact that she don't give a fuck that this was something that you spent time on and bonded with your son that's the problem. She don't give a fuck about how this has affected her son. She doesn't give a fuck and has no respect for the work as an engineer and seems to think it's not a real man's job. You're focused on thinking that you have a mother-in-law problem, but you actually have a wife problem. I'm willing to bet good odds that her mother's behavior has been fueled by your wife, and that's why she's had the audacity to do what she did. Neither of them even care about what they are doing to your son with their behavior. He deliberately destroyed something that was not just materially valuable to him, but also emotionally significant. A project that he had built with his father that he was proud of. You and your wife need to have a proper come to Jesus talk about the state of your relationship and why she is so nonchalant about her mother's wanton destruction of something that meant so much to her son. And I think most of the comments below that were in agreement that this relationship is going to have much bigger problems unless the wife starts backing Opie up in this situation. Like all the comments saying, she's allowed mother-in-law to destroy something, still backing mother-in-law up in some ways, even though the pain that's done to her husband and her son as well is really disturbing. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, this next story is a bit of an older one from a throwaway account. It was around the years of the various lockdowns, etc., so you may see references to that as well. It's titled My 40 Male Ex-Wife 40 Female Wants Me to Be With Her in Her Last Days. Backstory. I met my ex when we were both 10. She is my twin sister's best friend, so we've always been kind of a trio growing up. We started dating at 14 and got married at 23. Things got ugly though, because 5 years after getting married, she told me she had a month-long affair with a co-worker. Apparently the guilt was too much for her, so she confessed. We tried to work through it, but after a few months of trying, I knew that despite the fact that I loved her, I couldn't trust her anymore. She told me she still loved me and that she'd wait for me and prove that I was the only one. I wanted to believe her, but some things just can't be fixed. We never had kids. 3 years after the divorce, I met my now wife, 38 female, and we got married 2 years after dating. She's everything I could ever dream of in a wife and more. My ex, as my sister told me, they're still besties, never really recovered. She quit her job and is now working in a church. Throughout my relationship with my wife, she kept trying to get back together, and on the day of my wedding, she told me she still loved me and would love no one else. She said this was the last time she would bother me, but that she'll wait for however long it took. Apparently, she's honest in that regard, at least because my sister says she's never been with anyone since. So, here's what happened recently. My wife and I, married for 7 years now, have 2 kids, 7 female and 3 male. My sister came over with her own kids so the cousins could play. While my wife was out to pick up lunch, my sister sat me down and told me the situation about my ex. Apparently, she only has less than 6 months to live. She refused treatment and wants to live the last few months to the fullest. I guess that's why her and my sister really went out of their way to travel despite the pandemic. One thing on her bucket list though was that she wanted to feel like my wife again. No sex, no kissing, she just wanted me to be around the house. She still lives in the house we lived in. Again, and maybe hold her from time to time. I told her I wouldn't do that, because that was pretty much emotionally cheating. My sister kept arguing and begging me to at least see her and hear her out. We kept arguing, no screaming, the kids were in the next room with her older daughter, till my wife came back. My sister told her the whole story, and while she looked upset, she said she understood where my ex was coming from. When my sister left, my wife and I talked about it. My wife knows everything that happened in the past with my ex. She says while she isn't thrilled about the idea, she won't get upset if I decide to see her on a regular basis. My wife is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I love her more than anyone. She makes me happier than I've ever been in my life. Even in the good times with my ex, she knows I won't cheat. I also have zero romantic feelings for my ex, so there's nothing lingering there. I don't hate her or anything, it's just that the love I had for her has long since died. After thinking about it for a while, I'm honestly 50-50 about it. I know I don't owe her anything, but I feel like I might regret not seeing her at least one more time. since the last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good encounter for either of us. Unless you count the times I occasionally see her in the store or something. I honestly feel like, despite what she did, she still deserves to go with some peace. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if this might potentially affect our marriage. My wife says she's okay with it, and I believe her, but I just can't be sure that she'll feel the same way after it happens. I don't want anything to jeopardize what I have right now, no matter what. I'm not thrilled about going myself, to be honest. Any advice? What should I do? Edit. I just want to add that if I ever do this, I won't be acting like a husband or anything inappropriate like that. Just gonna see her and talk for a bit. My sister says that me just being there and sharing a meal with her would be more than enough for her to feel like we were married again. Wow, that's an absolute minefield, but it's one that, as sad as the situation is, the closure in this is for her. Because honestly, I think you already gave her closure when you told her it was over years ago. And again, while it's incredibly sad that, she hasn't moved on from this over the years, that's not your responsibility to fix. And you don't know what this could do to your current relationship. Your current wife is being really understanding about it, but there is a difference between saying you're okay with something and then actually living through it. She'd be watching you spend time with your dying ex-wife, which could stir up all sorts of feelings that she may not expect. And even in the end there where you were saying, you just be seeing her and talking for a bit, but then your sister comes in and saying, that's enough to feel like you're married again. The sister's just not getting it. That's totally overstepping the whole marriage thing. The commenter says, just my opinion, but I wouldn't do it. There's plenty of risk and little possible reward. If you want to show goodwill towards your ex, run errands for her or show support in some other way. Have a meal sometime with her, with your wife present. You don't owe anything to your ex, so these gestures are more than you are obliged to do. In my opinion, this scheme would be playing with fire with regards to your current marriage. Commenter says, do not do this. This has the potential to backfire and ruin your marriage. At the bare minimum, put unneeded strain on it. I know your wife said that she will back whatever decision you choose, but trust me, this will affect her negatively. Your ex-wife will be gone, and you'll be left with this weird tension inside your marriage. Also, you have kids. How are you going to explain your absence to them? I would agree to meet up for coffee and have her get some closure about everything. Afterwards, discuss with your wife if continuing to get coffee and talking with her as a friend is a comfortable boundary for you both. You can be there for your ex-wife and keep your current wife your number one priority. This is a sad situation and I feel sorry for your ex-wife, but don't be willing to throw a wrench into your own happiness. Another commenter says, your wife sounds like an angel. Please, please, please do not do this. The ex wants to play house with you. She made her choices. She didn't just cheat. She has a relationship with another person. Dying is a motherfucker. I have watched a few family members go through some painfully slow deaths. However, it didn't mean all of them were good people. You are not responsible for this woman's happiness. She should have moved on. Please, please, please do not play house with this woman. Your wife has made the choice to. She chose to be good to you and stand by your side. Maybe this doesn't affect her now, but it might later. Do not do this for the pain you might possibly cause your current wife. I am begging you. So, some point later, OP comes back in to update the post and says, quick recap, my ex-wife, who I've known since I was 10, cheated on me, but is now dying and wants me to be around before she dies. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've posted, and a lot has happened since. I got some solid advice from a lot of you guys, especially some who messaged me their personal experiences. I'd like to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. So, here's what happened. As many of you guys suggested, I talked to my wife. We had a long discussion about the whole situation, and I assured her that no matter what, she is and always will be my first priority. I also assured her that while I wanted to say my goodbye, I would never act like her husband. It would be more like me seeing a childhood friend or something like that. I also told her I would never spend the night, nor would I be alone with her. She was more comfortable after our talk and was pretty okay with the idea of seeing my ex again. As you guys guessed, she really felt like she was being forced into being okay with it, and my sister asked, but this time, she really was okay. So I talked with my sister, and after a long heated discussion about what my role would be in the visit, she agreed to the boundaries my wife and I set. A week later, my sister and I came over to our old marital home. It was surreal because while the emotions from years before came back to me, I didn't feel any sadness nor hatred or anything negative. I saw my ex, who was waiting for us in the living room, and she cried when I walked in. Most of you suggested she was faking it, but while she was still strong, you could tell almost immediately something was wrong with her. I indulged her with a hug and we talked for a few hours while my sister made lunch. I showed her pictures of my kids and told her stories of what they're like. Honestly, I didn't know how I would react after I saw her again, but it just feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. There was no hate or anything like that. I walked around the house and it was pretty much the way it was when I left a decade ago. I'm not really sure how I feel about our wedding photos, still framed and pictures of us still all over the house, but it wasn't really my place to say anything. The three of us had lunch and played board games all afternoon. It honestly felt like we were back to when we were kids and the three of us would hang out together. It was nice. I left at around 6. She was sad, but she understood. When I hugged her goodbye, she whispered, "I love you" to me, but then said how happy she was I was able to find happiness she couldn't give me. That part got to me, to be honest, and I was fighting back tears. I told her I'd see her again soon, and she asked if I could bring my kids next time. I told her I would and left to pick up dinner for my family. I told my wife everything that happened and she was quite happy about the outcome. I guess it helped that I brought her favorite food, but she also agreed to let me bring the kids next time. Overall, it was a great experience seeing her again. I feel like I needed that and would have regretted not doing so. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who gave me advice. Also, please don't roast my ex too much. She made a mistake and paid the price, but it doesn't mean she's an evil person. This will be my last update. Thank you very much, Reddit. It's just incredibly sad story. There was many comments, praising OP for what they did in the end, being a good person, etc., and going through with it. Other people saying, they never would have gone through with that. But in general, I think it was incredibly sad that the ex didn't move on from their marriage. It sounded like, as some of the commenters were saying as well, that she needed therapy years ago. She was living in this like a shrine to her marriage. Still all their old photos on the wall, and the sister is enabling all this, trying to get OP to go round there to visit. You don't know what the sister was saying in the background at the same time. The edit in the first post where the sister says that OP being there and sharing a meal would be more than enough for her to feel like they were married again just says it all, and I don't think the sister was a good friend to the ex in this situation at all. And I know this post was some years ago, so this is all sort of been and gone, and I kind of think that I hope OP didn't take the kids round there. I mean, these were young kids, and taking them round the house where all the old pictures are still on the wall, their dad with another woman, etc. It just sounds like a minefield, man. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Much love.